Former HPD narcotics officer Gerald Goines rushed to the hospital today during the sentencing phase of his criminal trial. Deputies escorting him out of the courtroom today after he suffered a medical emergency. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm Daniela Guzman.
And I'm Keith Garvin. Goines was convicted last week for his role in the fatal 2019 Harding Street raid that claimed the lives of Dennis Tuttle, Regina Nicholas, and their dog. KPRC2 investigator Mario Diaz has been following this case since it happened as part of the series The Bench.
Mario is joining us now live from downtown Houston. Mario, you're right there when Goines had that medical emergency. What happened and how did everyone react inside of that courtroom?
Well, everyone reacted stunned, obviously, and I will tell you that it appears that Goines is all right because we will be having court once again on Monday morning to continue the sentencing process at 10 a.m. But keep in mind, for 4 weeks now, Gerald Goines has not once addressed this jury. We have not heard from him in any way. But today, he made a massive statement. It came right before the 11 o'clock hour as the state was making their case against Goines, saying that he should go away for many years in prison. And that's when you started to see him have this episode where he seemed to have been overcome with emotion. I was just a few yards away from him and I started to hear him breathe heavily as the jury was escorted out, and he barely was able to make it back into the holding area. Then a few minutes later, the ambulance came, paramedics tended to him, and they rolled him out in a dramatic scene outside of the Harris County Courthouse on a gurney, and they took him to the hospital. Again, this was played out in front of everybody in the courtroom. You see the video of Goines struggling at the defense table for a few moments. You have the bailiff surrounding him. Then the jury, you don't see them on camera. They escort him out, and Goines gets taken away. And then you see him a bit later there with the paramedics being rolled into an ambulance and taken in for observation. I want to bring in now Leticia Quinones-Hollins. She is a criminal defense attorney, one of our legal analysts throughout the course of this historic trial. Your thoughts in terms of what we saw played out, considering your history of more than nearly 30 years as a defense attorney?
Absolutely. I've been doing this for 26 years, and I can probably only remember one other time when something like this has ever happened, certainly in the midst and the throes of a closing argument. So this is not something that happens every day, Mario.
Does this create a greater complexity in this process of sentencing Gerald Goines?
It absolutely does. And what it creates is a situation now, one, as the state is in its rhythm, they're in a zone, they are giving their closing arguments on the heels of the guilty verdict. All of that is abruptly started. Things are now calm. The jurors are not as engaged. They have to come back on Monday and recreate that moment.
Do they get that time back, in your opinion? They were going for about 5 minutes. Do you think they'll get that time back to start things all over again?
I believe if they ask for it, they certainly will get it back because things were interrupted at no fault of their own. And so if they say to the judge, hey, judge, may we get a do-over, I think they'll be able to get that.
All right, what we do know is that both sides will be back in court Monday morning beginning at 10 a.m. as the state continues with its case in the sentencing of former HPD officer Gerald Goines, again convicted of murder just last week in the same courtroom where he had his episode today. That's the very latest here at the courthouse. For Leticia Quinones-Hollins, I'm Mario Diaz, KPRC2 News.